What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video. And today, the Draft Network dropped its first ever 2024 NFL mock draft. So I am here to review it. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Do all that fun YouTube jazz. Below my face is my board. Below that is all the great ways to get involved with our community, as well as take advantage of our show's sponsors, Olipop, as well as UnderDog Fantasy. There's going to be a lot more sports betting content coming in the near future. We'll be also bringing in potentially a lot of shorts, so keep an eye out for that. I do have somebody who might be changing up the overall layout of the show, which is going to be extremely exciting. But also, we have some great things like all 22 tape studies, which are going to be happening within the next week. So join the Discord. I will provide a new link tree that should be in the description. So be patient with me. I'm trying to balance work at the moment and this, but y'all know how much I love you. And of course, you can watch it there for free. And we're going to have a memberships program, again, starting about in a week from now, that is going to have multiple different tiers. Basically, you get to see my board the whole time, even though you get to see it here. I like to give it to you guys. But you also can be able to see it whenever you'd like. And then there's going to be different tiers where you can end up actually watching back all the all 22 tape studies that I can't post on YouTube for obvious legal reasons. So very excited for that. It's going to be great. Again, join the community now because we're on the hype train. We're on the way to 10K, but join the hype train early and often. So let's get this on. Starting out with the number one overall selection. This is going to be by Damian Parson, obviously somebody who has a lot of respect for TDN, one of the best in the biz. We have Chicago Bears going Caleb Williams. Based on how Justin's been playing, I just don't really believe they're going to go off of Justin Fields. Again, there's a lot of reasons to go Caleb Williams. There's a lot of reasons to go Justin. That's why it's so controversial, right? And, it's a great idea to, potentially have the same strength at quarterback, maybe, not as much physically strong, but essentially the escapability, the big playability, and just, the mobility. That's what Caleb Williams brings to the table, as well as Justin Fields. But, you could essentially get 5 years at a very minimum price point compared to, what Justin Fields would cost you. But at the same time, we've started to see that quarterbacks getting contracts earlier tend to be less expensive than the ones even. If Caleb Williams ends up working out, he'll actually have an even more expensive contract. There's a lot of weird nuances to it, but, it's definitely worth discussing. Caleb Williams does have very similar strength to Justin Fields, and so being able to get that on a rookie contract, even though the team has money, is not the worst thing since sliced bread. So, it is what it is. It is what it is. I just totally made up that line there, and it is completely incorrect. But we are going to move on to the second overall pick, which is the Washington Commanders going Drake Maye. I miss when they used to have some images and shit here, but, again, the Draft Network, this is literally their first mock draft, which is why I'm so surprised by it, which is like, I was going to do the CBS one, but we all know CBS is for Sundays. Like, we already know. That's why we do every Sunday. That's our Sunday ritual. And I'm not going to ruin our Sunday ritual. So, of course, the CBS mock draft will be going up on Sunday. And, it's amazing the amount of people will say that the draft order is wrong when it's posted before the games start. It's one of the more entertaining things to deal with. But number two, regardless, let's get back to this. Washington goes Drake Maye. And, for me, I don't have Drake Maye as my QB2. I do believe there's a solidified top two. And, Drake Maye, he's kind of that guy who's tied 3 for me right now. And to be fair, I'm not even super confident in Bo Nix at the moment, so I probably could even kick Drake Maye above him. We'll see what happens there. But I do think that the second best quarterback in the class is Jayden Daniels. It is what it is. Regardless, the Commanders should be looking for a quarterback. I just don't think Drake Maye is all that. Like, to be number 2 overall, right? And to replace Sam Howell, who comes from the same school, different system, right? Because Drake Maye almost transferred because of the offensive system that was there. And they changed it up, which is great. But, Drake Maye, he has high upside. He still definitely could be a starter. I wouldn't feel extremely confident with him succeeding on the Commanders. It's one of those spots where at the draft time, I'm going to be like, I don't know. I don't know about this. They have a lot of needs in terms of offensive line. And, with Drake Maye not being shy of contact, I just don't know how I'd feel about him potentially taking a lot of hits, because he takes a lot of hits in the open space and you're just going to continue to add to it. Personally, if Washington doesn't want to go or wants Caleb Williams or nothing, I would trade down. I really would trade down, get some extra picks, get a tackle, and then test out maybe your luck on a quarterback, maybe in that next tier, or test it out with a quarterback in that round 2 range. For me, I'm just not sold on Drake Maye. Hence why, with a team that has much bigger issues like tackle, that's why I'm kind of hesitant on that. Pick number 3, the New England Patriots go Jayden Daniels. Phenomenal player. Again, he's my number 2 quarterback in the class. Another guy who's not shy of contact. He and Drake Maye both have that issue. They both take a ton of contact. But regardless, Jayden Daniels is actually really accurate, very precise with his passing, which is a big development because he actually had over 50% off-target passing back when he was at ASU. I remember that was the big stat. He was like number 2 worst in all of college in terms of like uncatchable balls. And now he's actually refined it quite a bit. It's not like he has some slow, big wide receivers that are easy to hit. He has some of the fastest guys in college that he's hitting in stride, and that requires a lot of precision. I don't know how I feel about Jayden in New England, but it does seem, based on the fact they loved Malik Cunningham, to be a way that New England is willing to shift. So be very intrigued with it. Be very intrigued. So quarterback goes 1, 2, and 3. At pick number 4, the Arizona Cardinals go Marvin Harrison Jr. Obviously, if I almost feel like Marvin was forced to the Cardinals in this one because I just don't know if the Bears would actually go with Caleb at 1. But Marvin Harrison Jr., if he's here at 4, is the correct move for the Cardinals. They need to fix up their defense, but guys, there's 7 rounds and there's plenty of picks. Like, it's okay to take the best player in the class. At pick number 5, the Giants go Brock Bowers. Now, I like the potential idea here, right? So they're talking actually potentially moving on from Darren Waller's contract after 2024. So, one more season, essentially, I assume is what they're talking about because this is 2023 to 2024 season. That would be intriguing. So I brought up this idea as well. I think he could play a boundary wide receiver for the short term and be moved to tight end. Of course, we're talking about like Madden here. Not many teams actually have the balls to try to put Brock Bowers as an actual wide receiver. And unfortunately, it's kind of a dream that we all have that probably wouldn't come true. Now, with the Giants sitting here with the top 3 quarterbacks off the board, it does make it very difficult. But again, it's tough. It is tough because Brock is such a phenomenal asset, and it's a long-term play here. And I think he'd work very well in New York. But I do understand, like, you need to get a wide receiver 1. I would go after Malik Neighbors. And if you want something like Brock Bowers, where you might want to get a boundary receiver early who might transition to a tight end, there's somebody called Johnny Wilson in this draft. That might be a good selection with that second round pick. It really could work. And you guys can check out my mock drafts that I did this week. My biggest video of all time. Hallelujah. Let's go. Thank you guys for that. It's quite surprising. The biggest video of all time was actually the one that YouTube cut short. It's very funny because I re-downloaded it twice to make sure that it was proper length, and YouTube cut it short. We love that. But, in that mock draft is all 3 rounds, so you guys can go check that out. That was the move I made for New York. Went Malik Neighbors at 5 and went Johnny Wilson in the 2nd round. And I think that works really, really well. So I like the idea, but maybe not at pick 5 because of the fact that you could get a true wide receiver here and then have a similar impact from a 2nd round selection. And some people think Johnny Wilson might even be a day 3 target for teams. So even better. But, y'all know my love for Johnny. At pick number 6, the Titans go Olu Fashanu. I'm not going to complain if it's Olu or if it's Joe Alt. Both of them are phenomenal. Get a left tackle. Very happy for the Tennessee Titans in that situation. At pick number 7, the Los Angeles Chargers go Malik Neighbors. I think this is the 2nd best pick that you could ask for the Chargers. Getting more explosive weapons for a quarterback that is very explosive is probably everything you could ask for. Now, there's 2 other players besides Malik that you'd want here. I know I said this is one of the 2 best, but there's a 3rd that is in contention here. So it's obviously Brock Bowers because Kellen Moore loves his tight ends. This team definitely could use an upgraded tight end, and then Brock would be an instant asset. Or Malik Neighbors, because you have that deep threat ability. He's improved as a route runner. He's ascended on my board as well. Very proud to say it. He is a very good receiver. And then you also have right tackle, because I do think protecting Justin is pretty big priority. And this team doesn't do a great job of that at that right tackle spot. But it really depends on how comfortable you are with the weapons that'll be there in round 2. You also have a big issue at corner, a big hole there at corner 2. So you also need to fill that. it just really depends. What priority, like what's your list of priorities? Is it receiving weapon 1 or is it protection 1? Is it corner 2 at number 1? I doubt it, right? I doubt it, unless you want Asante to become your corner 2, and then you get a dog corner 1 right here. I wouldn't be supportive of that because it's a deep corner class, right? So you have to look at your priorities, and then you have to see how does this draft class match up in terms of the value you'll get at each round, roughly, right? We all predict it, and we're all wrong to a certain degree, but there's a general consensus as to, hey, this range of players will go in this range, right? So that's how you actually should be approaching the draft. That's how I tried to approach it. And, it's very difficult when everybody else has their own scales. And, that's the fun part of the job, though. Naturally, you get shit talked 24/7, but at the same time, you get to really be unique with how you see things. And everybody watches the same tape, and we all come away with different conclusions. That's the awesome thing about this job. But at the same time, it's the worst part. But anywho, at pick number 8, the New York Jets go Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. Again, just, getting offensive tackle, unless Malik Neighbors is there, probably the best thing you can go for. And if Malik Neighbors is there, I still would opt for offensive tackle because you know me, I'm an offensive tackle type of guy. So if Joe Alt's here at 8, it is a blessing for New York. At pick number 9, the Atlanta Falcons go Michael Penix Jr. The 4th quarterback comes off the board. It really just depends on his health. The medicals are going to be huge in terms of where Michael is going to go. Is he going to be taken in the top 10? Because he's had 3, if I'm not mistaken. He's had 2 ACLs. I think he had another season-ending injury. I think he's had 3 college season-ending injuries. And he's been clear for the past 2 years. Knock on wood, that continues through the natty. Like, again, the last thing I want to do is jinx Mr. Penix's health here. But, health is a legitimate thing. If a quarterback misses 1 game, that could derail an entire season. So there is a strong chance Michael could end up slipping into the 3rd round because of the fact that teams just don't trust how reliable he is. And it has nothing to do with his talent. He has unbelievable arm power, and he's improving on his lower body mechanics as well. On that frozen rope that he threw for a touchdown right over the middle between the safeties, you can tell his lower body mechanics were actually improved on that. Like, you can watch the intricacies that he's worked on that, when I evaluate players, I sometimes am a little bit harsh, absolutely. But I love to see when players work on their weaknesses, even at this point. Even though he's had 12 wins up to this point, he still works his ass off in order to be able to have success, to be better. And I love that with my quarterbacks. Michael Penix, he's ended up continuing to progress. I do love being able to see a quarterback, even though he has that injury concern and that age issue, he still is working on his issues. And to me, over the next 5-10 years, if he continues to do that, that continues to make him relevant, continues to make him worth keeping on a roster, if not starting. The Falcons need a quarterback. I'm not ready to take Penix top 10 yet. And I forced him to Minnesota because of the fact that Minnesota has almost no other issues. But I wouldn't take him probably in the top 15 for the health concerns. The age is mediocre to me. That's a mediocre issue. Mediocre issue. Quarterbacks last till they're 40 now. So not a big issue for me. It really is that health. And it scares the living hell out of me. But of course, I've been far more hesitant in terms of health than most people are. So that's probably also why I'm a little bit more on the afraid side, on the pessimistic side when it comes to people's health. At pick 10, the Bears go Rome Odunze. Quarterback, wide receiver, edge rusher. Those are the 3 positions they'll target in the first. It makes sense. So Rome Odunze, 6'3", 210 to 215. Perfect build. Perfect build. And one hell of a competitor. Played with a broken rib as well as a punctured lung during the year. So someone who I have a lot of respect for. I haven't been fully sold on him as a total talent on the field yet. Being worth a top 10 pick worthy. But still, he has the attitude I'd want on my team. I'd be perfectly happy with the Bears selecting him around this range. Raiders go Jerzon Johnny Newton. Somebody got on me for talking about Jerzon and calling him Johnny. It literally is his name. His Twitter name is Johnny something Newton. You saying? So it's funny for that. But yes, that's why I call him Johnny Newton. But Jerzon, he's a phenomenal player. If the Raiders opt out of a quarterback, it just really depends on what they do in round 2. I do think round 2 or 3, they need to target Joe Milton, JJ McCarthy. I haven't seen this as a live reaction. Obviously, I don't know how high JJ is going to be going, but, to be fair, he might be going pretty soon in this. Bo Nix, if somehow he falls, because some people are really against Bo Nix. Don't fully get that, except for the average depth of the target, but it is what it is. Jerzon Newton's a great pick for the Raiders if they don't go after the quarterback route. At pick 12, the Vikings go Jared Verse, opting out of a quarterback here. So intriguing, but I do think edge rusher is the only other position to target for Minnesota in round 1. I would love to see Danielle Hunter get brought back with Jared Verse. It'd be a nice combination of lightning and thunder. The Saints then go Amarius Mims at pick 13. Amarius Mims is phenomenal. I did not expect for him to declare. I don't know why he declared, but this team has the time or patience to allow Amarius to have growing pains at left tackle, because Trevor Penning just has not been it at all. And I hated Trevor Penning just as a prospect, not as a person. Because again, respect to Trevor Penning, as a human being. I'm proud that he got his money, and he's pretty much set for life now if he doesn't blow all of his money, but that's his own issue. I was not a fan of Trevor Penning. Never was. Didn't like the pick. And so I never have trusted it. I'm not going to try to toot my horn there because, again, I don't like being right about players I'm wrong about. Now, it's cool to be able to say, oh, when I don't like a player, it carries some form of weight. And, maybe, some teams are not going to end up, unfortunately, ruining their franchise by, missing out on star players. But in this case, I think Amarius Mims would be an excellent replacement. I'll just leave it there. No need to go and labor on and on about that. The Broncos then select Laiatu Latu at 14. Edge rusher is a position the Broncos could be definitely open to targeting. Latu, crazy length, potential neck issues. That's why he had to leave Washington there. He had some neck injury, and that's pretty scary because, again, medicals, that could really shift how this draft goes. And it's kind of the case with a lot of the draft. Tevin Jenkins fell for injury concerns as well back in the day. But, we got guys like Laiatu Latu where if the medicals say, oh, we don't know how well his neck's going to hold up over a 5-year contract, this dude could slip into the 3rd round. That is what happens. Great talents fall because teams don't trust that they'll be there. So it's intriguing to see where he goes because that will tell us how the medicals check out. Seattle Seahawks then draft Cam Kinchens at 15. I've seen this a couple times now. I don't fully understand this selection with, there will be some really solid safeties there in the 3rd round. I trust Seattle to trust their depth and trust their, not depth, but trust their eyes on the depth players in the class, where in the 3rd round where they have 2 picks, they'll be perfectly fine drafting another defensive back behind Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, as well as Love. So, one of those guys is going to be gone, probably, if not both. And they're talking right now about Quandre Diggs being the cap casualty. I do think that Julian Love's proven that he will be an every down player and should be an every down player. And you could bring in a 3rd safety into that. Cam Kinchens is not going to be a negative, but it's just, to me, not your best usage of that pick. There's good edge rushers there. There's good quarterbacks that are still available. To me, that's where I'd rock. At pick 16, the Bengals go Keon Coleman to replace T. Higgins. That's just a 1-to-1 replacement. It makes sense for me. So I'll leave it there. At pick 17, the Arizona Cardinals select Nate Wiggins. I've done that pick myself. Pretty much this has been an Arizona Cardinals draft that I have done. Nate Wiggins, cornerback, is a huge issue for the Cardinals. I would look at edge rusher as well just because of how talented the edge group is at this point. But, you cannot complain. At pick 18, the Steelers go J.C. Latham out of Alabama. People are talking about how he played poorly in the Natty, but honestly, you're going up against Braylon Trice, who is my number 5 player in the draft. You're going to have issues, and he was really dominant in the run. I totally lied there. I mixed up the Washington game with the Texas game because I was actually thinking back to when Texas played Washington. But regardless, looking back on how Michigan ended up playing, you were going up against Chris Jenkins, and Michigan is super duper talented. I don't know why I was tripping up. I just had a brain slip right there with Braylon Trice. But I always love those games, by the way. Washington versus Texas games are phenomenal. I don't know why. They always work very well. Regardless, J.C. Latham went against some very good players. And, he had some slip ups. Naturally, that's what's going to happen. He's a very athletic player who is still developing, but he is very dominant in the run game, and he's someone who has earned my respect. So, big fan of JC right there. I would prefer Talise Fuaga for obvious reasons, but it is what it is. At pick 19, the Green Bay Packers then select Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State. Now, you're going to be kicking Zach Tom to left tackle, and you're essentially going to be kissing goodbye to Rasheed Walker's starting potential. But at pick 19, that's where I could really see it being worth considering. Talise Fuaga, to me, could be a potential Hall of Fame level tackle. I got to continue reviewing his tape in the latter part of the season, mainly because he had some big slip-ups, and I want to see why. At pick number 20, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Xavier Legette, wide receiver out of South Carolina. Could be a huge riser at the combine because of the fact that this dude is essentially 6'3", 230 and might run in the 4.3s, if not low 4.3s. He's a track star. He's really solid after the catch. He's honestly really underrated as a route runner too. Very good player. The Buccaneers would be getting an asset by getting Xavier Legette a little bit early, but still a much welcomed addition to the squad. At pick number 21, the Indianapolis Colts go Troy Franklin out of Oregon. He is a very dynamic route runner. He has very solid hands. He had some slip-ups. Randomly, he got a massive increase in drops this year, but over his career, I think it's closer to the 8 or 7%, which is acceptable. Reliable overall. He'll get open. And, he does complement Michael Pittman very well. I would want a true number one to be next to Pittman, personally. I think Michael Pittman should be almost in a Juju Smith-Schuster role where he's a number two producing as the number one. And you have a true X receiver that takes away some of the attention. Because I love Michael Pittman Jr. Again, we go to the same high school. Go Oaks. And he was there at my first ever 7-on-7 game. He was the one coaching us on how to do shit. Like, it was really sick. That was right when he went to USC. But, naturally, Michael Pittman Jr. should be in that wide receiver 2 role and just be absolutely feasting, because he's already feasting as a wide receiver 1, but I want that X build. I want that guy to be to give Pittman a little bit less attention. And, I think y'all have been asking for that as well, getting a little bit more of a dynamic 1 that can complement Pittman and then kind of just have a 2-headed monster there. And then you have Josh Downs to feast over the middle. I love that combination. Troy Franklin wouldn't be a bad addition by any stretch, but I feel like it's a little bit early for Troy. A little bit early, especially because I'd be wanting someone like a Keon Coleman or a Johnny Wilson, which, funnily enough, Michael Pittman Jr. used to play against Johnny Wilson when it was Oaks versus Calabasas. Be kind of cool to bring him on the same team in the second round. Just got to put that out there. Regardless, that's where my head's at. I'd prefer a different build of wide receiver than Troy Franklin. At pick 22, the Jaguars go after Graham Barton out of Duke. Balky loves his interior offensive linemen that are super versatile and very athletic. It fits exactly what I'd expect. So, could totally see this happening. Offensive line, also a position that Balky is willing to go in the first round. At pick 23, the Los Angeles Rams select Kool-Aid McKinstry. Hard to imagine him falling this far, but if the Rams can snag a true corner 1 like Kool-Aid, I am not going to say no by any stretch of the imagination. He is a great player. Great player. At pick number 24, the Buffalo Bills select Chop Robinson, high upside edge rusher out of Penn State. Von Miller is, pretty much done. And, you do need kind of a new face of that defense. Even though defense is solid, Chop Robinson could be the next, big thing for Buffalo. Not going to deny it at all. I would prefer to go after Cooper DeJean for defensive secondary reasons because he can pretty much play anywhere. But, Chop is far from a poor number 2 overall selection, or poor number 2 selection at 24. At pick number 25, the Kansas City Chiefs select Brian Thomas Jr. That's the pick that I made this week. A really solid player, high upside, great speed, great frame at 6'4", 205. You cannot complain about Brian Thomas. To me, I have him in my 80s because I think he's a little bit less nuanced as a route runner. He's a little less nuanced in terms of his release package. I think he needs to improve on a lot of areas of intricacy. But when you look at the base package and how he would fit into the Chiefs offense, I think it would be seamless. He really does fit what you want from an MVS type of role. He's actually more reliable in terms of catching as well. And to me, that's what I want. For the Chiefs, he fits, and it is acceptable for me in the first round. Now, for teams that I don't think he fits perfectly for, I don't think he's a do-it-all wide receiver. But for the Chiefs, this makes sense. If you get what I'm saying, it's pretty much scheme fit. That's what it boils down to. And Brian Thomas fits perfectly with what I think the Chiefs should go after. The Philadelphia Eagles then select Terrion Arnold at 26. Terrion Arnold is a phenomenal corner. He is my corner number one. And the Eagles really do need to continue boosting that corner core. James Bradbury is going to be gone. The corners haven't been able to develop enough as it is. Keeley and Eli are going to be the future, but so should Terrion Arnold. You cannot have just two corners. It doesn't work like that. You need depth. You need Eli to be the depth third corner on the boundary, someone who can slip into the slot in case of injury. Terrion can slip in the slot as well. You need somebody with that field awareness. I think this is a very solid selection. I'd prefer potentially going after Kingsley Suamataia, even though Kingsley is far lower on my board than Terrion is. Just the offensive line is what's made Philadelphia dominant. And, when you lose your identity on the offensive line, as potentially you will over the next year, 2 or 3 with Kelsey as well as Johnson retiring, there's definitely going to be, you want to retain your identity. That's what the Steelers and Cowboys kind of lost, in my opinion, over their time. But luckily, the Cowboys didn't fully lose it. They ended up getting Tyron Smith, and now they were back to where they are now, where they can actually have like a really consistent offensive line. But even the Cowboys are at a point where Tyron Smith retires, you have a massive hole at center and left tackle, and the right tackle spot I don't fully believe is Hall of Fame filled. But naturally, you have 2 key positions at left tackle as well as center that are an identity of the offensive line. You have your commander of the offensive line, essentially, and then you have your blindside tackle. So the Cowboys are at a point as well. Same thing with the Eagles with the center as well as the right tackle, who's been there consistently for a long time. Like, your identity could be gone, and you need that for your foundation. You need that for your success. So that's my long-winded way of saying I'd potentially go after a swing tackle over Terrion Arnold, who I still have in my top 10. But amazing pick. Just, have to play devil's advocate. The Detroit Lions select Cooper DeJean. I'd prefer a true boundary corner here. Cooper DeJean, I think, is probably going to opt to be the best safety in the class or the best slot in the class. And I don't think the Lions need either, unless you want to get rid of one of your safeties or transition one of your slots to safety. So I just think that's a little bit too early for the Lions to value. The Lions are one of the few teams that don't need to value that versatility. You need to get someone who plays exactly what you need them to play, and that's going to be a boundary corner role. So there's plenty of corners that are on the board, whether that's Denzel Burke, I know that's scary, Dwight McLaughlin, extremely underrated, or, you can just continue down the list with some other corners, Kamari Lassiter, for example, TJ Tampa, Kalen King. There's just guys who are going to be better for that specific role than Cooper DeJean. At pick 28, the Houston Texans go Byron Murphy II. I'd prefer to go after Tavondre Sweat, but Byron Murphy is a great player. I'm very glad that he is getting some respect. Overall, super high upside defensive interior out of Texas that, the Houston Texans could certainly use. At pick 29, the Miami Dolphins go Jackson Powers Johnson, center out of Oregon. That's a pick I've contemplated making in the first for Miami. I would look actually at Tyler Newman as well. The secondary got roasted. Safety 2 is kind of required to be, at least competent in this secondary. And right now it's not performing that way. Lamar pretty much exposed that big time. And, the value to me is going to be getting that Tyler Newman addition. But 3 interior offensive linemen up for a contract. Jackson Powers Johnson would be a very valued addition. At pick 30, we just talked about it. The Cowboys are at a point where they could end up losing out on their whole entire identity of their offensive line with losing Tyron Smith. So Jordan Morgan, left tackle of Arizona, is going to be a great choice here. You just need somebody to have some form of continuum there. And Jordan Morgan could be that. Personally, deep down, I think Jordan Morgan needs a little bit more time. So hopefully he could stay one more year and Jordan Morgan can fill in when Tyron Smith's not healthy. But, if need be, Jordan Morgan has a ton of potential. I'm going to be a fan of this one. The Niners then select Kingsley Suamataia at pick 31. The Niners do need a right tackle desperately, and Kingsley has already played that at a higher level than he's played left. And last but not least, this sounds very familiar to my mock draft. Pick 32, the Baltimore Ravens go Troy Fautanu, tackle out of Washington. I have literally made like a plethora of these picks, so it makes total sense. Troy Fautanu could be a tackle, but if he needs to kick into guard, the Ravens also have a role that is opening for that. Overall, extremely high upside, great player, very feisty in the run game. Overall, this mock draft did not have many picks that I absolutely detested, which is a great sign because we all have unique opinions. And, for Damian, I've had some picks where I didn't fully agree with Damian, but, it is what it is. You never fully agree with the mock draft. That's what makes these awesome. It's why we are able to review like 2 mock drafts a week and actually get unique content with both of them. So that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching, showing the love that you always do. See you on the far side.